So last night I started the wood stove, and it's been, I don't know, maybe 3 days since I started it last, so it had cooled off quite a bit. As I was down here, I noticed water hit me in the face. I was sitting on the floor and something hit me in the face and came up and there's water right here. Well, of course I investigated and it was coming out of the attic box. This is called an attic box. Now I did my attic box differently than what most people would do. Most people will have the attic box maybe just an inch or two. I think it's 2 inches. I don't remember the specifications. You'd have to look at your own code enforcement. Below the ceiling line. Well, I dropped mine all the way down so I didn't have to cut the attic box because the angle of the roof cuts right into it. So I would have had to cut an angle. So I just dropped it down. And the thing is I asked Carolyn, you want me to cut it or drop it down? She said, no, I think it'll look neat hanging down like that. And I think it does. It's kind of neat looking. So what happens is with the attic box, this chimney stops right here. The single wall, this is called single wall, and it stops right here. On the other side of the attic box, we have triple wall. And it's a mere stainless steel chimney pipe. And it's triple wall means there's 3 layers of chimney. Within each layer is insulation. And it's supposed to keep it very cool to the touch. And it does. I mean, it doesn't get real hot. And so what the chimney box does is keeps anything from hitting the chimney, the triple wall, inside the attic. And then it goes through the roof. That way your roof material, as it goes through the roof, it doesn't get too hot and burn your roof. I think you got to have, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches of roof cut out around that. And then you have some flashing that goes on top of that. And I'll take you outside in a minute and show you all this. And then on top of that, you have a collar that keeps the water from coming in. So last night, I saw water dripping right here, right at this corner, and down onto the stove. So I looked up in the attic, and sure enough, the collar that's supposed to keep the water from coming down must have been leaking because water was dripping down the side of the triple wall up here. So again, imagine triple wall, that stainless steel pipe is inside this box. This stops right here. Inside the box is triple wall. So water is dripping, running down the side of the chimney into the box. And of course this is not sealed or anything, so it just drips right down. So we have our pan of water here that we use to humidify the room. I always keep this full when the stove's running. I thought, well, I'll just put that over there, and it dripped in there. What was interesting was as soon as the chimney heated up, it stopped dripping. So my assumption is what has happened is it got cold, it was raining, it was that misty, just a little bit more than a mist kind of rain. It was kind of just floating around, and with the heavy winds, it was just kind of floating around everywhere. As this was heating up, the leak stopped. So what I think happened is at the collar, I got a bead of silicone. Again, I'm going to take you up there, I'm going to show you all this. And it's silicone that is designed, I'll show you that too here in a minute, for this specific application, for flashing and all that. As it cooled off, I'm guessing, the pipe shrunk. When it shrunk, it separated from that silicone. And then when it warmed back up, it expanded. Not a lot, just a little bit because it's triple wall, it doesn't get that hot. It expanded and sealed back up against that silicone. That's my guess. So this morning I got up there and I took a look at everything. So first of all, this roof is a nightmare to get on. With that metal roofing, I can barely, well, I can't stand on it. I slide right off. Putting it up there was a nightmare. I mean, I really struggled. You know, this roof is 16 feet long. I think it took me 2 weeks to get the roof done because it was just so hard to do. So what I did was I took some of that cargo strapping, that red cargo strapping that you use for trucks, and I have several pieces of it, you know, several links. So I wrapped it around this tree, which is what I did when I was building the house too. Wrapped it around this tree, and I was able to throw it up there. Well, this time it wasn't so bad because I got the porch roof. I didn't have the porch roof before. So I don't have to get onto the roof off this edge, which is just horrific. It's terrifying. It's terrible. So what I did was I came up off the porch roof. Much easier to get up on this. So I put a ladder right here, and I ran it up. And now you can't walk on the clear roofing material. So you walk on the rafters, and how, you know, 1 foot here and 1 foot there. It's not so bad. We got to be careful. Don't step on the plastic. So I just try to step on the screws. You might be able to see a screw right there. I try to step on those. That way I know my footing. I can feel the screws on my shoes. So that way I know I'm stepping correctly. So I get up there, able to shimmy my way across to the chimney. So the stuff I use is specifically made for chimneys. This is high temp silicone sealant. This is made by Red Devil, Miko's Red Devil. They make a lot of products for wood stoves. They make the seals that go around the door, the glue that goes, holds that seal in place. I've used it a lot. When I made the outdoor heat exchanger, I used a bunch of that to seal up all the cracks and everything on the wood stove, and it worked pretty good. The problem with the glue that you're using on the wood stove, it can't get wet, so it didn't really work out there. And that gets up to like, oh, don't quote me, I don't know, 2,000 degrees, 1,200 degrees, something like that. This silicone allows temperatures up to 500 degrees. It's all gooey. I made a mess. For use with pellet stoves and gas appliances, vent pipes, and roof flashing, which is exactly what I'm using it for, roof flashing. Now, Carolyn said that they tried to use silicone in her past. They tried to use silicone, and it didn't work very well. Same problem we're having. Once a year, they'd have to go up there and replace it. So eventually, they got some tar, roofing tar, and put on there, and that worked a lot better. But this is just something I think you have to do on a regular basis, whether you're using tar or not. I think it just wears off. It's a really bad design, in my opinion. We'll see how long this lasts. I don't know if I'll buy another tube of it. It's pretty expensive. I bought it at the hardware store. I can't remember what it was. I paid for it. That was a year ago. I bought the tube when I put the chimney in, and now I've used the other half of the tube. There's just a little bit left. But if that doesn't work, then I'm going to get the tar. We'll try it Carolyn's way. I just went with the directions of the chimney. The chimney specifically told me to use that stuff. And so when I went to the hardware store, I told him I needed some high temp chimney silicone. Read the instructions. He said, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Walked me right over to it. So now I'm going to come up here. I'm going to show you what I got so you understand how this works. I don't remember all the terms of all this stuff, but it really is a bad design in my opinion. I never did like it. So what you have here is you have the roof flashing right there. And the way that works is this chimney, I was telling you, the stainless steel chimney, that is the triple wall chimney. So there's 3 layers of metal in there. This is the outer layer, and in between each layer you have insulation. The chimney runs through the roof into this flashing. Now the flashing, you cut your roof and you slide it up underneath the roof. So you can see there I got silicone there. That's a bad design because now you have to silicone that furthest edge because you have to cut past a little bit so this will slide up in there. Now they do make flashing that goes over metal roofing. So you'll see here there's a gap there. I just put the metal roofing styrofoam there, and that worked out pretty good. That keeps the rain from blowing up in there. But they do make it where it will ridge over. It was just a lot more expensive, and I didn't see the point in doing it. Water isn't going to get into this because if you look at that edge, there's no way water's going to run up over that. The same thing on this side. It actually sticks out further. So now when you put the flashing on, the chimney runs down into it. There's nothing to seal it. So then they give you this collar. So that's an individual piece. But underneath the collar, I don't know if you can see that. You probably can't see it. There's nothing to keep water from going up in there. I mean, if it was to blow like a hurricane, that could blow up underneath there and down into that chimney box quite easily. So the chimney box is straight underneath all this. So they put this collar around there. That collar, there's nothing to seal it. You have to use some sort of sealant like we used here to block the water from draining straight down into the collar. And so the collar is what keeps the water out of the chimney box. It's a bad design in my opinion. I don't understand it. Now I do think they make a rubber silicone one now that you can put around this. I think you can put a hose clamp, a huge hose clamp around it, and that holds it in place. I couldn't find one when I was looking for one. I may do that one of these days. Carolyn and I were talking, if this doesn't work, we'll probably take the whole assembly down and either put the roofing tar on it or try to find one of those silicone ones. I kind of like the idea of the silicone one. They're supposed to fit real tight, and then you put the hose clamp on it. I knew when I put this on, I would eventually had problems with it. I was very proud of how well I did at building this house. As you probably remember, if you were here last year, you will remember that I put all this roof on, and I was absolutely terrified about cutting a hole in it. I just didn't want to cut a hole. Now, the diameter of the hole through the roof is much larger than the diameter of the chimney. So it's a huge hole. And I didn't do a very good job cutting a perfect circle. What I did was I got in the attic in order to measure it out. I got in the attic and I took a drill bit and I measured the distance, whatever it was. Let's say it was 2 or 3 inches away from the chimney. I measured out and I would drill a hole, and I did that all the way around. And then I came up here and I took a jigsaw. That's what I used. I used a jigsaw, and I just went from hole to hole to hole all the way around. That way I didn't have to do any measuring and try to figure out circumferences and all that. It was just a lot easier just to measure each hole distance away from the chimney and drill a hole. And I looked at the chimney top there while I was up there. There's no creosote. I mean, that's all last year's creosote. I cleaned it the best I could before I put it back on. But there's nothing gooping up the screen or anything. So our dry wood made a huge difference this year, keeping that from getting all crudded up with flammable creosote. Very dangerous. So if you'll check out this up next box, that'll take you over my other channel. I hope I can inspire you to work through your problems so you can live your dream. Thanks for watching.